I think it'll continue this conversation. I did bring up the 242-gallon tank. What has been your experience, like if you've watched any of the episodes? I know the last one that just came out is getting a lot of views. It talks about the story of Wellsboro going into the tank, and he just comes in and wants to mount Ace, and then there's somehow we find that she's carrying eggs, and you can see like the tank almost looks like it's recovering from winter because plants are down and there's like not a whole lot of vegetation yet, but there's a lot of new growth. And I haven't really done a great job of showing the new growth, but let me just, yeah, there we go. So that just doesn't keep going in and out. But yeah, so there's a lot of new growth, and there's a lot of natural behavior I've seen from the toads and the wood frogs. And I don't know, like
Do you have any kind of permanently mounted like cameras or anything going in that tank? You could do some kind of neat time lapse stuff to really demonstrate that vegetative growth, maybe.
that's a great idea. I need to. What I would like to do is get a trail camera in the tank and have it facing away. For whatever reason, I bought a security camera, and it didn't have an SD card, but it said on the box it did. Like it doesn't have a place to put it in. So I'm like, oh, I'm like, all right, maybe I'm stupid. I can't find it, and I'm like considering calling them, like, hey guys, where do you put it? But I would love to get a time lapse of that. I will tell you guys one thing. This might be what you guys are the most interested about. The oyster mushrooms do grow, and the oyster mushrooms must be eating something. And I don't know, Jeremiah, if you followed the podcast to hear why that's important, but the thought is that oyster mushrooms eat nematodes, and if there's the parasites in there, maybe they're growing because they're eating the parasites with the frogs and toads.
That's new to me. That's super interesting.
So what is that process like? Are the nematodes just sessile enough when they're not like in an animal's body or like their eggs or whatever that the mycelium just happens to engulf them? Or like does the mushroom put out some kind of chemical to immobilize them? Or how does a mushroom hunt?
Right, isn't that crazy? It seems that they use their spores, so they're spreading out, and once they infiltrate the soil, I'm not sure exactly what the process would look like. That would be unbelievable to get that on a high resolution camera, but they apparently somehow are consuming the nematode. And the parasitic nematodes are where it's moist. So you figure it makes sense that a mushroom that needs it to be moist, but there needs to be good airflow, which that explains my tank completely. It could penetrate through the entire enclosure. It's probably not in all places in the enclosure. Like I don't think the spores have spread that far, but just where it's funny because where the frogs and toads sit under this wood fern is where I have like the piece of mushroom, like the thing that came in the box. I should have concealed it, but I didn't. But anyway, it's funny because it's grown 3 times. Like there's mushrooms that have come up 3 times now, and it's been in there for like a month and a half. So it would not grow if it wasn't eating. It's not. I can tell that it must be eating all of what's around it because then it just mysteriously dies. And they like oyster mushrooms can get significantly larger. So it just makes it interesting. Like, oh, is it eating occasionally and like dying off and coming back when there's food? It's just really interesting to see the behavior of the mushroom and how it doesn't matter to the frogs and toads. They don't care that it's in there.
What kind of what's the volume of this thing like? If you were to try and want to do something like this at home, like would you be able to do it in pretty much any enclosure? Do you need to have something really large already?
You need to have good airflow.
Mhm.
I don't think I could pull it off. I could try. I like went out of focus. Why am I? Oh, there we go. Okay, I have to move in.
You've
Sorry.
been there off and on this whole time.
I'm so sorry. Everybody's gonna watch this and be like, "Oh, Aaron, like you need to get better at editing." I'd be like, "No, I need to get better at being in the
He's
moment."
Aaron blurry again.
I can't watch this. That guy's been blurry for 10 minutes now. But you need to have really good airflow, and terrariums are definitely a good source for air. So like, I could probably pull it off with my gray tree frogs because they're in the 100 gallon like the biggest XL terrarium that Exoterra makes, and I've tested it with a fogger to see like how the airflow is, and it's really good. But my 125 gallon, even though I'm pumping air in and all this other stuff, it's just harder for air to move around as much in that tank. But there's a
There's
lot.
a set of products that we got sent this week for some in-house testing that sounds like mostly our reptile department's going to be getting to play around with here soon, that I'm very excited about some of them. One of them was a little air purifier fan kind of a device made for terrariums, and I think that that sort of thing has a lot of potential.
Yeah, I mean, let me talk about this for a second to explain to people. So the way that my 242 gallon was created, it has 3 holes on the side of it, on the left side, and one of them has a blower. So if you have a grow tank, you know, like pumping air into that grow tank is very important. So I have a lot of airflow moving from that blower into the tank. And then I also have 2 computer fans that are waterproof. One is pushing air out and another one is pulling air in. So I have airflow at the top of the tank, even if it's a little bit, and I have that massive blower. It's like a duct fan, and it's pushing air like a very like bathroom grade duct fan, and it's pushing air through the tank. I can feel it like almost the entire 6 feet whenever I'm like just trying to feel through the holes the airflow. I think that's very essential to a mushroom because it needs to have that kind of airflow, but it also has to be like very temperate. So if you're keeping it above like 78, it's probably too warm for the mushroom, for the oyster mushroom, maybe not, which is why I don't think it's a good candidate for the White's tree frog tank. But it also needs that like misting and that fog. And I mean, if you've seen any of the episodes, you know that, you know, I do that time from time, and it's just a good accidental or incidental situation for that mushroom to be there because I'm already creating the right conditions for it to grow. So it's like, well, if it's already the same like region, you know, that we're trying to replicate its actual habitat, why not put it in there if it could help the frogs? So it's been really interesting to see, but I haven't seen it spread as much as I'd like. I'm not sure if that's because the mushrooms haven't gotten big enough to then release spores, or, you know, what it's actually doing. I probably did it a disservice by not putting it under the soil. Maybe I'll change that around. But
Does it require like a damp wood kind of a medium or something? Is it just it wants more wood, or
it could be that. Um, so you could buy oyster mushroom starter kits on Amazon. That's what I did. You can
what I'm
literally,
thinking of? Usually people have like a brick of some kind of thing. They're not
Yeah.
expecting them to just pop straight out of the ground like other varieties.
yeah, oyster mushrooms definitely need wood, and that's why I have it where my 2 like big branches are. The thought was maybe it will attach to those at some point, and then it'll just naturally grow on those. Hasn't happened yet, but I've been drying it out a little bit in the tank because it's like 83 for soil moisture, and it's been like in the 60s for humidity, and it's been that way for a little while now. And I'm just trying to, even with the airflow, I'm just trying to get it to dry out a little bit. And the plants have responded, but I don't know. We'll see what the mushrooms do, what the mushroom does. But aside from that, I mean, what else has been your take on the big tank? Have you seen any of the episodes or anything about it yet?
I mean, I've watched the stuff you've sent me, and I just think it's cool you're dedicating that space to the toads, and it's nice to see, yeah, that kind of large environment. I know you say you don't even think it's big enough for them, but yeah, I should watch more to see a little bit more of the personalities that you're talking about, because I do think that keeping frogs and toads, you start to see that they are all individuals and they do act differently. So yeah, excited to watch some more of it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I've seen a lot. I don't know if this would be of interest, but I've seen the wood frog really change. I've seen her go from being kind of lazy in the 40-gallon quarantine to like when she wants to hunt, she can. Like she has that option. I think it was really good for her because like a lot of people don't think about this, but pond frogs actually do like to leap the entire length that they can. Like they like to
Yeah.
jump. And when they realize that they can't do that, I think that it puts them in a situation where they're like, well, what's the point? Or I don't know, they just don't get active like they should. That's why I think they become obese, at least for like wood frogs and leopard frogs, from what I've seen. Green frogs love to swim, but like leopard frogs and wood frogs are very terrestrial. So I've just noticed that she moves through that tank like a ninja. She comes out in the middle of the night. You don't even know she's out. You just kind of
Yeah.
get up to go to the bathroom, and it's like, oh, there's my wood frog. Like there she is. But you wouldn't really see that in the I mean the quarantine gallon was 40 gallons. That's more than most people would give them. But like just to see, and she's an older female too. I mean she's relatively up there in age. If she gets through another March, which obviously I think she will. She's very, very healthy. She's just a very good, like strong. Like I don't know. I could just kind of see like if they have that wild mentality, like they're gonna survive no matter what. Like that's the kind of animal that's gonna survive in captivity for years on end. If they
Yeah.
become like really tame and they're very like uh chill. I've seen a lot of those animals just slowly like decline, and then they check out. Um,
Yeah, that's interesting. Like you think about seeing a wood frog like bounding through the forest floor, and uh, yeah, if you keep branids in a smaller enclosure, yeah, you would never be able to see them actually take more than one large jump. That actually just reminded me of something I heard recently about African bullfrogs, the Pixocephalus. Someone was telling me about a secondhand story about someone who went to find them in the wild in Africa and had some of the local people tell them where to find them, but tell them that they would actually wear cups when they went to find them because the males could potentially jump that high. And you don't really think of that like in a captive pixie frog, that they could actually be fit enough to jump, like 2-3 feet in the air.
yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's hilarious and kind of terrifying.
Right.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I'm really excited to share with people what I find from doing this because it's a first probably for everybody. Um, American toads and wood frogs, this big of space, and trying to replicate the weather. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to this. Um, and then trying to show it from a cinema camera, not just filming it on my phone and saying, oh, that's good enough. Trying to put an actual production together. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
I love using cameras nowadays, just being able to see some of the nocturnal activity, and just they've gotten cheaper, and it's
yeah,
nice.
I got some really cool shots. I never thought I would see a toad that's been in captivity for 5 years call like it was a spring night. Like that was what did it for me. Just watching him hopping around and getting at like he's rambunctious like they were in the wild, and then seeing his vocal sack, how big it was, like, and just hearing him like how much power he had behind it was just really impressive to me. I know Ace didn't find him appealing, but I did. I thought, wow, like this guy's. I knew he was very strong, but just his, because that's a muscle they're not using very much in captivity, right? Like they're not using the vocal sac a whole lot. So you'd wonder like when they start using it again, like what happens. So I don't know, it's just really interesting to watch that. But
Yeah.
That was kind of my experience with the Indian marsupial frogs that I don't have my male anymore. Unfortunately, he passed this summer, but I still have the female, but I did get the male to actually call once I brought those home from work after they had been just there for years not producing because they're so altitude sensitive and whatnot. But I was able to actually get him calling at my apartment, which it sounds like wasn't a thing that he'd done for years and years, and that was really neat to be able to finally achieve that.
that would have been really cool. Did you get any like video of it?
I don't have video, but I do have a recording of the sound.
That's cool at least.
Yeah,
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah. He got very round. I wish I had gotten a video of him doing it because he just turned into a whole balloon, but I do have an audio clip anyway.